everyone, it's Marissa from bumblebeeapothecary.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make my favorite meatball recipe. This recipe is fast, it's easy, it's delicious, and it's perfect for people on the GAPS diet or anybody who needs to avoid grains and starches. So this video is inspired by a comment that one of you left. Thank you for all of your very nice comments that you leave. And this person in particular was asking for a juicy GAPS stage 1 and 2 meatball. So I'm going to talk about ways that you can make it fit for GAPS stage 1 and 2, as well as how good it is for any other type of meatball need that you may have, whether you're on GAPS intro, full GAPS, or not GAPS at all. And the person asking this was also asking what ground beef I use and if I make my own ground beef. So I'm gonna jump into the recipe, start showing you how I like to make meatballs, talk about all those different ways to kind of tweak them depending on where you're at on your real food wellness journey. And I'm going to talk about the ground beef that I use and all that kind of stuff as well. So let's first jump into the recipe. So first I have my ground beef here. I have 3 pounds of it. So I get beef, we buy a whole beef at a time from a local farmer, and the meat processing place that does all the cutting and wrapping grinds the ground beef for us. So they will cut according to how we want. There's some cuts that we can choose to have as roasts or steaks. Some of those same cuts could also be ground, so we get to tell them all of our preferences. They'll grind whatever cuts of beef that we want them to. So that's what we do. We just give them our whole cutting order when they get to that stage, and then that meat cut and wrap place will grind it for us. I like to source grass-fed beef from local farms so that I know how the cows were raised and get really high quality that way. If we're ever in between beef, sometimes we'll run out and then we'll have a few weeks or whatever while we're waiting for the next beef to be ready. Then I will grab some from the store, and I just look for organic grass-fed beef from the store. I try to find the highest fat amount that I can. Usually grass-fed beef is on the leaner side, so if there's an option, I always choose the higher fat amount. So for every 1 pound of ground beef, I add 1 egg. So I have 3 pounds of ground beef here, so I'm going to be adding 3 eggs. And as far as eggs go, you can totally make meatballs without egg. I do like to add it because it does help the meatballs kind of stay together, but they do stay together quite well even if you're not adding eggs. So for people on stages 1 and 2 of the GAPS diet, when you're not eating cooked eggs yet, then you can make meatballs with no eggs. You just leave them out. Next, I'm going to add mineral salt. I eyeball things most of the time. I would say this is probably a good teaspoon of salt, maybe a touch more, so like a rounded teaspoon up to a teaspoon and a half. And then the next thing that I'm going to add is ground pepper. So here's where it moves out of the stage 1 and 2 intro meatball. If it were just ground beef and salt, you could also add some chopped fresh onion if you wanted to it, then that would fit with GAPS stages 1 and 2. And then I'm going to add my ground pepper. So ground pepper can be added from stage 4 of GAPS intro. So if you're any earlier than that, you can just leave it out. And then what I like to do when I make these is also add some dried parsley. It adds a bit of flavor, but mostly it just makes the meatballs look fancy. You can add dried herbs like this starting in stage 3 of GAPS intro. So if you're earlier than that, you can just leave them out. And then I also like to add some onion powder. And this is more of like a full GAPS type of a thing. Well, I guess probably stage 4 onward would be okay. If you're earlier than that, you'll want to stick to just chopping up fresh onion and adding them. And then same thing with this, and just for ease, a lot of the time, more of a stage 4 onward or full GAPS type of thing, I like to add garlic powder. And again, if you're earlier than that, you just want to chop up garlic cloves and add them. So there's our mixture. So now I'm just going to mix everything together with my hands and form them into balls and put them on a baking sheet. But let's talk about cooking techniques for a little bit. So on intro stage 4, you can start doing meats that are cooked by roasting or grilling. So that's when this type of cooking technique would be introduced. If you are earlier than GAPS stage 4, intro stage 4, then you will want to cook the meatballs in liquid. So this would be some meat stock that you've heated up. You can add your raw meatballs that you've formed made with those ingredients that fit for where you're at, and then drop them into your hot meat stock once you've brought it up to a simmer and let them cook in there. And then you can also add your vegetables and you have really delicious meatball soup. That's a really great way to add variety and just another fun recipe that you can have on GAP's intro. So stage 4 and later, you can go ahead and roast them in the oven like I'm doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this together. It's mixed well, I just roll it into balls. Try to make them all the same size so that they cook evenly. Oh, and while I am mixing this up, I have my oven preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Since we're gonna go ahead and do this more advanced cooking technique and cook these in the oven. I just realized I kept my rings on while I was mixing that. Usually I try to remember to take those off while I'm mixing and then put them back on, but I will have to clean those. Anyway, I washed my hands and now I'm going to stick these into the oven. So I have 400 degree Fahrenheit oven and they're going to go in. And then the cook time depends on what size of meatball you formed. It can be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. For this size, I usually do 30 minutes. And when those are done cooking, I will take them out and show you what they look like. I hope that you enjoyed that recipe. I hope you give it a try and I hope that you like it. If you do give it a try, leave me a comment and let me know how you liked it. Be sure and check out that description box for links to places where I like to buy my ingredients, as well as free ebooks that I've made and other goodies. I also have information down there on my 30-day meal plan for the GAPS diet, as well as information on how I can help you follow GAPS. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else who you think would like it or find it helpful. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.